At number 10 spot, we have the Mercy Brown vampire incident. Many of you guys might know about this one. The Mercy Brown vampire incident took place in 1892 on Exeter, Rhode Island. At the time, the town was plagued by a series of deaths caused by a mysterious illness which is now known today as tuberculosis. However, at the time, they believed it was a curse placed on the town by vampires. The incident centered around the Brown family, who had lost several members to the illness. In an effort to lift the curse and save the remaining family members, it was decided that the body of the recently deceased daughter, Mercy Brown, would be exhumed and her heart would be burned. This was because when they checked up on all the family members, they noticed that she was showing no sign of decomposition and there was still blood in her heart. On the night of the exhumation, a group of men gathered at the cemetery to perform the ritual. As they were prepared to burn her heart, one of the men noticed that there was fresh blood on her lips. This was seen as a sign that Mercy was in fact a vampire, and the decision was made to also burn her liver and stake her through the heart to ensure that she could never rise again. The incident caused a sensation at the time and was widely reported in the newspaper. It was sparked debate about the existence of vampires and the proper way to deal with them. Despite the efforts of the men in the cemetery that night, the illness continued to plague the town, leading many to believe that the curse was never truly lifted. At a number 9 spot, we have Fingernails Freddy. Fingernails Freddy was a notorious figure in the small town of Cumberland, Rhode Island. Known for his long, sharp fingernails that were rumored to be laced with poison, Freddy was what many people feared. He was said to have been born with a rare genetic condition that caused his nails to grow at an alarming rate, and he honed his deadly claws by sharpening them on the stones of the local river. Despite his fearsome reputation, no one knew much about Freddy's past or why he had chosen to live in isolation in the woods around the town. Some said that he was a former circus performer who had been cast out by his troupe for his dangerous and his unpredictable behavior. Others whispered that he was a mad scientist who had conducted gruesome experiments on animals in his secret laboratory deep in the forest. Regardless of what he was, it wasn't until 3 kids got murdered in the woods here when the town started to believe in the legend more. But as the years passed, Freddy's reign of terror began to fade, and the legend ends with a group of brave hunters venturing into the woods to track him down. And apparently they eventually cornered Freddy in his lair, and yeah, you get the rest. At number 8 spot, we're the Flying Dutchman of the Narragansett Bay. Flying Dutchman time! Oops, not that one. The Flying Dutchman of the Narragansett Bay is a ghost ship that is said to sail the waters of the bay and cursed to roam the seas for eternity. According to the legend, the Flying Dutchman was once a mighty ship that plied the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. It was commanded by a fearless captain and crewed by a dedicated and loyal team of sailors. However, the ship met its doom when it was caught in a violent storm off the coast of Rhode Island. Despite their best efforts, the captain and his crew were unable to save the ship. It was battered by the storm and eventually capsized, sinking to the bottom of the bay. The captain and his crew were all lost, and their spirits were doomed to roam the waters of the bay till the end of time. Since that fateful day, the Flying Dutchman has been sighted many times by locals and visitors to the bay. Some have even claimed to have heard the ghostly voices of the captain and his crew crying out in desperation and despair. Many believe that the Flying Dutchman is cursed and that anyone who sees the ghost ship will suffer a terrible fate. Some have reported feeling a sense of fear and dread when they come into contact with the ghost ship, as if they're being warned to stay away. At our number 7 spot, we have the Newport Tower. The Newport Tower is a mysterious stone structure located in the city of Newport, Rhode Island. The origins of the tower are shrouded in mystery, and it has been a subject of much speculation and debate over the years. Some believe it was built by Vikings, while others believe it was built by Portuguese explorers. Regardless of who built it, according to the legend, the Newport Tower is said to be cursed. Locals claim that anyone who dares to enter the tower will suffer a terrible and, most of the time, gruesome fate. Despite the warnings, many people who have ventured inside of the tower have reported strange and inexplicable occurrences. The most common things reported here are screams of disembodied voices and the feeling of something or someone holding your ankle. One of the most chilling stories associated with the tower is that one day a group of young students decided to spend the night inside here. And only after one night, the students were never seen or heard from again, and their fate remains a mystery to this day. The legend of the Newport Tower continues to captivate the imaginations of locals and visitors alike. Despite the many theories and stories surrounding the tower, its true origins and purpose still remains a mystery. Some say it is a portal to another realm, while others believe it holds the key to ancient secrets and hidden knowledge. But what do you guys think is inside here? Could it just be an old lighthouse? Who knows? At our number 6 spot, we have the Perron family. The Perron family haunted house is a true story that has been adapted into a popular horror film called The Conjuring. The Perron family, consisting of husband Roger, wife Carolyn, and their 5 daughters, moved into a large secluded farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island in 1971. At first, the family was excited to move into their dream home, but they realized that something was not quite right. Strange noises and eerie presences were felt throughout the house, and the family began to experience terrifying occurrences on a daily basis. The haunting became more and more intense, with objects moving on their own and furniture being thrown across the room. The family also heard footsteps, voices, and even saw ghostly apparitions wherever they went. Desperate for help, the parents turned to the renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren for assistance. The Warrens conducted a series of exorcisms and other rituals, but the haunting continued to escalate. The family was forced to live in constant fear, with some members even being physically attacked by the malevolent spirits that haunted the house. After living in the house for 10 years, the parents were finally able to break free from the spirits and move out. Today, the old farmhouse still stands, an eerie reminder of the terrifying events that took place within its walls. In the hump of our list, we have the Ladd School. The Ladd School is said to be haunted by the ghosts of former patients who once lived there. The Ladd School was founded as the Rhode Island School for the Feeble-Minded in 1908. It was originally intended to be a place where people with mental and physical disabilities could live and receive more care. However, over the years, the school had become known for its inhumane treatment of their patients, including instances of physical and psychological abuse. Many of the former patients who lived at the Ladd School have reported seeing ghostly figures wandering the halls and hearing strange noises coming from the empty rooms. Some have even claimed to have been touched or grabbed by unseen hands. One particularly eerie story coming from this place is of a former employee who worked at the school in the 1980s. They claim that one night while they were working the night shift, they heard a loud banging noise coming from one of the patients' rooms. When they went to investigate, they found the room was completely empty and the door locked from the inside. To this day, she had no explanation for what could have caused the noise, let alone whatever locked her inside of that room. Another ghostly encounter at the Ladd School involved a group of students who were visiting the school as part of a field trip. They reported seeing a ghostly figure standing at the end of a hallway, staring at them with a blank expression. When they approached the figure, it suddenly vanished right into thin air. At our number 4 spot, we're the Rose Island Lighthouse. The Rose Island Lighthouse is a historic and iconic landmark located in Narragansett Bay. Built in the early 18th century, the lighthouse has served as a beacon of hope and guidance for ships navigating the treacherous waters of the bay. However, over the years, the lighthouse has also gained a reputation for being haunted, with many people claiming to have experienced strange and unexplained occurrences within its walls. According to the legend, the ghost of a former lighthouse keeper named Captain James T. Waring is said to haunt the lighthouse. Captain Waring was the lighthouse keeper at the time of the American Revolution, and it is said that he died in the lighthouse under mysterious circumstances. His ghost is said to roam the halls and rooms of the lighthouse, and many people have reported seeing him or feeling his presence while they visit. Other stories about the lighthouse include the ghost of a young woman who's said to have drowned in the bay. Her ghost is said to appear on the shores of the island, beckoning to those who come near. However, the Rose Island Lighthouse remains a fascinating and mysterious place, and it is sure to continue to capture the imagination of those to hear its haunting tales. At our number 3 spot, we have the Brenton Point State Park. The Brenton Point State Park, located in Newport, Rhode Island, is a beautiful and peaceful place that is popular with tourists and locals alike. However, it is also the site of a scary legend that has been passed down through the years. According to the legend, the park is haunted by the ghost of a young girl who drowned in the ocean nearby. The story goes that the girl's parents were wealthy and lived in the mansion, but they were very strict and didn't allow her to have any fun. One day, the girl decided that she had enough of her mundane life and ran away to the beach. She was determined to have some fun and enjoy the freedom that she always craved. But as the sun began to set, the girl started to feel a sense of dread wash over her. She realized she had no way back home and that her parents would be very angry with her when they found out what she had done. Just as she was starting to panic, a handsome young man walked up to her and offered to take her home. The girl was relieved and gratefully accepted his offer. However, as they walked around the shoreline, the young man revealed that he was actually a ghost. He told the girl that he had drowned in the ocean years ago and that he'd been looking for someone to take his place in the afterlife. The girl was terrified and tried to run away, but the ghost grabbed her and dragged her into the water. Now it's said that the ghost of the young girl haunts the Brenton Point State Park, crying out for help and trying to warn others of the danger that lurks in the waters. Some people claim to have heard her cries late at night, while others say that they've seen her ghost wandering the halls or the mansion. Whether or not the legend is true, it is a chilling tale that is sure to give anyone who hears this a good scare. At our number 2 spot, we have the ghost of the Hanging Rock. The The ghost of the Hanging Rock is a chilling story that many people in Rhode Island hear about. The legend tells the story of a young woman who was brutally murdered on the rocky cliffs of Narragansett Bay. It was said that the young woman was a beautiful and active member of the local community. She was loved by many and had a bright future ahead of her. However, her life was tragically cut short, and now her ghost is said to haunt the area, appearing as a ghostly figure with long flowing hair. If you decide to take a visit to the bay, chances are you may hear her haunting voice calling out your name. If you do decide to investigate this voice, you will probably feel her presence, with some describing a sense of coldness and fear when they are near the site of that sound. Despite the many theories and stories surrounding the legend of the ghost of the Hanging Rock, the truth about what happened to the young woman remains a mystery, and her ghost continues to haunt the area, serving as a reminder of the terrible tragedy that took place on the rocky cliffs of this bay. At a number 1 spot, we have the Foster Witch. The Foster Witch of Rhode Island is a well-known legend in the state. The story goes that the witch, whose real name is unknown, lived in the town of Foster in the 18th century. She was known for her magic abilities and was often sought out by locals who needed help for various problems. One day, a group of townspeople became fed up with the witch and decided to put an end to her ways. They gathered together and burned her at the stake, but as she was being consumed by the flames, she cursed the town of Foster, saying that it would suffer for what it had done to her. For many years after her death, strange and mysterious events occurred in Foster. Animals would behave oddly, crops would fail, and strange noises could be heard throughout the night. Some have even claimed to see the ghost of the Foster Witch wandering the town, seeking revenge for her death. Eventually, the townspeople realized they needed to make amends for their actions and appease the spirit of the witch. They held a public ceremony during which they apologized for what they had done and promised to honor the witch's memory. From that day on, the strange occurrences in Foster stopped, and the town was able to move on in peace. At number 10 spot, we have the grave with stairs. Just from the photo alone, this is one of the scariest graves I've ever seen. Easy access to the dead, right? Well, this eerie grave belonged to a girl named Florence Irene Ford. Then in 1871, shortly after her 10th birthday, she passed away from yellow fever. So the reason for the stairs, when the daughter was alive, she was always terrified of storms. So you would get the classic mom taking care of her own daughter. But since she has now passed, the mother decided to build stairs down to her casket in order to comfort her daughter when it got stormy. I mean, it's a really sweet idea until you realize it's also really scary. She would go down these stairs, close a trapdoor above her, sit in complete darkness while singing hymns and songs to her daughter. I could only imagine what the people around must have thought when they heard this type of stuff. At number 9 spot, we have the Devil Worshipper Road. Located in Waynesboro, this road's real name is Waynesboro Shibuda Road, or by its more popular name, the Devil Worshipper Road. I know, I read that name and already knew this story was going to be all types of creepy. Story goes that a local farmer was struggling financially, so in hopes to provide for himself, him and his family decided it was best to sell his soul to the devil. He documented the creature that approached him as being 7 feet tall, red glowing eyes, and holding a pitchfork. Many people say that when they drive on this road at night, their car shuts down, leaving them stranded. And imagine just being in the middle of this rural highway in the middle of the night with nothing but trees and trees all around you. For some people, the spirits try to taunt them by shaking up their car until they either crash or have to stop driving completely. Then when your car is shut off, some claim that a half goat, half man will stand on top of your vehicle. This is basically the plot of any horror movie ever. But who knows if it's real, because why would anyone want to go to a road named Devil Worshipper's Road in the first place? At number 8 spot, we have the Weeping Woman of Callaway Hall. During the Civil War in Columbus, Mississippi, there were stories of a nurse who started to fall in love with a wounded soldier. After months in her care, the two would share stories and life experiences, but as the soldier started to heal back up, he quickly returned back into battle. He left, and after many years, he never ended up returning back to the woman. The nurse, who was named Mary, was so heartbroken that she ultimately made the decision to take her own life. She did this by jumping off the clock tower in the middle of the night. Now locals claim that her distraught spirit remains by the Callaway Hall tower to this day. The security guards report that their faucets would turn on and off, and these are the faucets with the handles you need to physically turn, not no hand sensor one. And she got her name because she tends to wake up students in the middle of the night by crying at the end of their beds. So just imagine what that would look like. At our number 7 spot, we have McCredit's disease. If you look up McCredit's online, you won't find much about it. However, if you're from Mississippi, you've probably heard older relatives mention it. Men back in the day, and sometimes until now, would ingest large amounts of lead, which would make them secrete a chemical and would make the women around them descend into a homicidal rage. For example, women who were the friendliest and happiest would turn into irrational and erratic people. The story started in Europe when a man had an angry mob of women running after him after he ingested a good amount of lead. Finding he couldn't do anything about it, he jumped into the well below freezing river, and with no hesitation, all the girls jumped in and ended up drowning. Then it hit Mississippi when a large group of women became hostile and tried to kill every man in town. I don't know about you, but this is absolutely terrifying, but I'm gonna need more data for this. At number 6 spot, we have Goat Castle. In the August of 1932, Jane Surgic Muriel, better known as Jenny, was found murdered in her home. She had only purchased the home recently, but friends noticed at the moment she got it, she was showing very strange behavior. Many people consider that she was trying to live a hermit lifestyle. By the way, she only had visits from her cousin and suspected lover, Duncan. Shortly after, the two of them would start to have issues with their neighbor, Richard Dana and Octavia Dockery. So when she was found murdered, the police immediately suspected it to be the neighbors, Richard and Octavia. Except when the police went to the couple's home to ask questions, the mansion was in complete disarray and was a complete disaster. Painting was peeling, windows were broken, holes were in the walls, and the house was infested with insects. As well, the house contained live animals, including a goat, hence the name. Eventually, the couple was cleared for murder and allowed to go back into their home, except they would pass away shortly. Now it's said that if you walk into the home, you can see an apparition who is believed to be Jenny seeking revenge for her murder. Right in the hump of our list, we have McRaven Tour Home. This place is sometimes called Mississippi's most haunted house, and for very good reason. The McRaven Tour Home, located at 1445 Harrison Street in Vicksburg, once served as a Confederate campsite and a makeshift hospital. Supposedly, at least 11 people have been buried on the property ground. Many witnesses have reported seeing all of the ghosts who have been buried on the property. These ghosts include Mary Elizabeth Howard, who died during childbirth in the house in 1836. During the siege of Vicksburg, McRaven was transformed into a makeshift hospital. According to local legend, John H. Bob caught some Union soldiers tampering with his crops, became enraged and threw a brick at one of them, and seeking revenge, the soldiers returned later, and that night they killed Bob, making him the third resident to die at McRaven, which he can also be seen walking around the home to this day. At number 4 spot, we have the Witch of Yazoo gravesite. In the middle of the old historic Glenwood Cemetery, there's a chain link surrounding a grave known as the Witch's Grave. According to local legend, a witch lived on the Yazoo River shoreline. This witch would lure in fishermen to tease and torture them for later. Eventually, the frequency of attacks increased and law enforcement was quickly involved. They eventually caught on to her ways and chased her through the swamps, where she half drowned in quicksand. As she sank down, she swore her revenge on Yazoo City and the townspeople, saying, quote, "In 20 years I will return and burn this town to the ground." No one thought of it at the time, and then came May 25th, 1904. The fire of 1904 destroyed more than 200 residents and nearly every business in Yazoo City, which is around 324 buildings in total. The witches' graves also has these chains around them, but apparently they need to be replaced constantly since they continue to be broken off. Do you think it's a witch, or is it just some people messing around the cemetery? What do you think? At number 3 spot, we have Witch Dance at Natchez Trace. Staying on the topic of witches, the forest trails of Natchez Trace, located in Tupelo, Mississippi, are said to have been a popular meeting spot for witches back in the day. The sign in the area reads Witch Dance. The very name conjures visions of eerie midnights, swirling back capes, and brooms stacked against a nearby tree. The old folks say the witches once gathered here to dance, and that wherever their feet touched the ground, the glass withered and died, never to grow again. Impossible? Maybe so, but look around. Look for a hidden spot where no grass grows. So basically, when you see dead grass, witches are said to have danced there, and some of these barren or scorched spots of the ground can still be seen to this day. At number 2 spot, we have the Chautauqua Monster. This is basically Mississippi's Bigfoot. So according to the Pike County legend, a circus train was going down the old Illinois Central Railroad, and in a sudden turn of events, it derailed in the swamps near Chautauqua. Except this circus was not like any regular circus. It apparently had many strange critters and creatures on board, one of them being a half man, half ape hybrid, which appeared as a large hairy creature. This creature was very hostile and would attack any person or animal that got too close. So a search party was quickly put together to capture this beast, but they left empty-handed and the monster was never seen again. At number 1 spot, we have Robert Johnson and the Crossroads. This is probably the most original story that related crossroads with selling your soul to the devil. So there's that. So for those who don't know the legend, Robert Johnson was a semi-lackluster guitar player until he decided to journey to the crossroads of Highway 49 and 61 in Clarksdale. This is where he famously made a deal with the devil, where he would sell his soul in exchange for a formidable technique and mastery of the blues. His style did a complete 180, and his style took over jazz with its unique flair. Legend has that 3 of his most hauntingly desperate recordings, Crossroad Blues, Hellhounds on My Trail, and Me and the Devil Blues, are a trilogy of his deal with the devil. And guess how old he is when he died? Yup, 27 years old. At number 10 spot, we have the Tommyknockers. The legend of the Tommyknockers originates from the state of New Mexico. The legend follows a group of miners when they stumbled upon a strange and powerful object buried deep within the earth. As they began to excavate it, they were overcome by its strange energy, which transformed them into these bizarre, violent creatures. These creatures were known as the Tommyknockers and were infamous for their ability to knock on the walls and ceilings of mines, warning other miners to stay away. The legend goes on to say that the Tommyknockers were incredibly powerful, with superhuman strength and the ability to control the minds of those around them. They all roamed the mines, causing destruction and mayhem wherever they went. Despite their fearsome reputation, some believe that the Tommyknockers could be reasoned with, and attempted to communicate with them in order to understand their motivations. While some people, on the other hand, believe that the legend of the Tommyknockers is based on a real event that occurred in New Mexico, which had a bunch of trapped miners. However, others viewed a purely fictional tale. Over the years, many people have come forward to speak about their encounter with the Tommyknocker, which only adds to this creature's mystery more. At a number 9 spot, we have a witch's heart. The legend of the witch's heart in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the forest near a small village. She was said to be able to cast spells and control the elements, and many people were afraid of her because of that. One day, the witch fell in love with a young man from the village, and she cast a spell on him to make him fall in love in return. The young man, however, did not want to be with this witch and tried to resist her spell at all costs. The witch became very angry and threatened to destroy the village if the young man did not return her love. Talk about needy. The villagers, who were afraid for their lives, pleaded with the young man to give in to the witch's demands, but the young man was brave and refused to give into it. Now the witch was extremely pissed, and she decided to cast a powerful spell that caused the ground to shake and the trees to sway. She summoned a storm that raged for 3 days and 3 nights, causing destruction and chaos throughout the entire village. Finally, the young man, with the help of other villagers, was able to confront the witch and break her spell. The witch's heart was filled with so much anger and hatred that it just turned to stone, and she was never seen again. The villagers say that if you listen closely on a stormy night, you can still hear the witch's heart beating beneath the ground, a reminder of the power of love and the dangers of anger and hatred. At a number 8 spot, we have Haunted Mesa. The legend of the Haunted Mesa in New Mexico dates back to the early 1800s. According to the legend, the mesa was once home to a Native American tribe who lived in harmony with the land and its natural resources. But as time passed by, the tribe grew greedy and began to exploit the land. They would strip it of its resources and cause great harm to the environment because of it. As a punishment for their actions, the spirits of the land rose up and cursed the tribe, causing them to be consumed by a terrible darkness. The tribe was never seen again, and the mesa has been haunted ever since by the spirits of the land. They are said to still roam the area at night, searching for those who dare to desecrate the land. Many people have reported strange and eerie occurrences on the Haunted Mesa, including ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and mysterious lights. Some have even claimed to see the ghosts of the Native American tribe still wandering the mesa in search of redemption. Despite these stories, the Haunted Mesa remains a popular destination for hikers and adventurers who are drawn to its rugged beauty and eerie atmosphere. Some say the spirits of the land are still watching over the mesa, protecting it from those who would seek to harm it. So if you hike here, stride carefully. At a number 7 spot, we have a Witch's Bridge. The Witch's Bridge is a legendary structure said to be located in New Mexico, although the exact location is unknown. According to the legend, the bridge was built by a woman who was shunned by the community because they believed she was a witch. The woman, who was determined to get her revenge, constructed this bridge using her own blood and bone, imbuing it with dark magic as well. As the story goes, anyone who crosses the bridge will be cursed with bad luck and misfortune for their entire lives. Some say that the bridge is guarded by the spirit of the witch, who emerges at night to haunt and terrorize hikers. Others believe that the curse can only be lifted by performing a complex ritual at the side of the bridge. Despite the legend, there is actually no evidence of a bridge matching the description in New Mexico. It is likely the story is a tall tale or a piece of folklore, rather than a true account of events. However, that does not stop people from being intrigued by the legend and people going out searching for this bridge. At a number 6 spot, we have a man in the black hat. The man in the black hat is a mysterious figure who is said to haunt the deserts of New Mexico. Some say that the man in the black hat was a gunfighter or a bandit who roamed the desert, preying on travelers and settlers who ventured too far from civilization. Others claim that he was a ghost or a spirit haunting the land and seeking revenge on those who had wronged him in life. Despite the many different variations of the legend, one thing remains constant. The man in the black hat was a fearsome and dangerous figure, feared by all those who came in contact with him. He is said to wear a black hat, a long coat, and a pair pair of guns by his side, and was said to be incredibly fast and extremely deadly with a gun. There's even one story of him single-handedly defeating a group of 10 raiders in less than a minute in an attempt to just save some settlers. Despite his heroic deeds, however, the man in the black hat was never seen again, and his fate remains a mystery to this day. Some say that he simply vanished into the deserts, never to be seen again, while others believe that he met his end at the hands of another enemy. Maybe he finally found peace and moved on to the afterlife. Haven't we thought about that? In the hump of our list, we have the hanging tree. The legend of the hanging tree in New Mexico dates back to the 1800s when the area was a wild and lawless frontier. According to the legend, the hanging tree was a large tree located in the center of town, where criminals and outlaws were brought to justice by being hanged from its sturdy branches. The most famous story associated with the hanging tree is that of a notorious outlaw named Billy the Kid, who is said to have been hanged from the tree after being captured by a posse of vigilantes. Despite its reputation as a place of justice and punishment, the hanging tree was also said to be cursed, and many people believe that anyone who were hung from this tree would be doomed to haunt the town for eternity. Over the time, the tree became a symbol of fear and dread, and people avoided it at all costs, even during the day. Eventually, the town decided to cut down the hanging tree and burn it to the ground in an effort to rid the town of its dark history and the supposed curse that was said to be associated with it. Today, all that remains of the hanging tree is a small plaque on the spot where it once stood. At a number 4 spot, we have a witch's ladder. The legend of the witch's ladder in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the mountains and was known for casting spells and curses on those who crossed her. One day, a group of travelers stumbled upon her cabin and asked for shelter for the night. The witch agreed, but she secretly cast a curse on them. Desperate to break the curse, the travelers sought help from a wise woman who told them that they must climb to the top of the mountain and gather a handful of the witch's hair in order to break the curse for good. The travelers managed to do this, but the witch chased after them using all of the spells she knew. Using the hair as a talisman, the travelers outran the witch and made their way back down the mountain, where they burned the hair and finally broke the curse. From that day on, the mountain was known as the Witch's Ladder. Despite the fact that the legend of the Witch's Ladder is just a story, it continues to be told and retold in the American Southwest, reminding us of the power and determination and the importance of standing up to those who seek to do us harm. At number 3 spot, we have the Curse of the Full Moon. The Curse of the Full Moon is a popular tale told to many in New Mexico, and it involves a powerful medicine man who placed a curse on the land to protect it from the actions of early European settlers. The legend goes that the medicine man was a powerful shaman who had the ability to communicate with the spirits of the land and the animals that lived there. He was deeply connected to the natural world, and he would have a great reverence for the land and its inhabitants. However, when the European settlers arrived, they began to disregard the sacredness of the land and its inhabitants. They would cut down trees, hunt down the animals, and they would pollute the waters. The medicine man was outraged by the settlers' actions, and he decided to curse the land with a very powerful spell. And whenever the moon was full, the curse was said to be at its strongest, causing even more misfortune for those who dared to defy the spirits. Over time, the legend became well known throughout the region, and this is when people began to fear the power of the spirits and the curse. At a number 2 spot, we have the ghost lights. The legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico dates back to the time of the Native Americans who inhabited the region. According to the legend, the ghost lights were spirits of the dead who roamed the earth in search of their loved ones. These spirits were said to be the souls of warriors who were killed in battle, or of women and children who had died of disease or other natural causes. The ghost lights were said to appear as glowing orbs of light that floated through the air, moving silently and without any apparent direction. Many people have claimed to have seen the ghost lights and described them as eerie and settling, and some even reported feeling a sense of fear or dread when the lights were present. Despite this, however, many people also found that the ghost lights to be fascinating and mysterious, and they often went out of their way to try and catch a glimpse of these elusive spirits. In the recent years, the legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico has taken on a new dimension, with some people claiming to have captured video footage or photographs of the light. So if you guys want to see, go search it up on Google, and I promise you, you'll find one photo with it. At a number 1 spot, we have the Taos hum. The Taos hum is a mysterious low-frequency sound that has been reported in the town of Taos, New Mexico. It is described as a faint droning sound that is similar to the hum of a distant engine or the drone of a bee. Some people claim to hear the hum constantly, while others hear it occasionally. The source of the Taos hum is unknown, and there are many theories about what could be causing it. Some believe that it is a natural phenomenon caused by geological activity or atmospheric conditions. Others speculate that it is the result of human activities such as underground military bases or secret experiments. One of the most popular theories of this is caused by aliens. According to the theory, the hum is a signal or communication from an extraterrestrial civilization. Some people even claim to have experienced strange encounters or sightings of unidentified flying objects in the area where the hum is heard. Despite the many theories, no one has been able to definitely explain the Taos hum. The phenomenon remains a mystery and continues to fascinate and intrigue those who have experienced it. Some even claim that the hum has a strange, almost hypnotic effect on those who hear it, causing them to feel disoriented or dizzy. At number 10 spot, we have the White Lady of Balit Drive. Every country has their own version of the White Lady ghost, and the Philippines is no exception to that. The country started to dread and avoid Balit Drive since the 1950s, when stories about a white lady floating around its streets started to spread around the area. The story goes that a white lady is a student of the University of the Philippines. The woman was the victim to a horrific crime committed by a taxi driver who picked her up, which caused her to pass away. Now, it's said that the ghost of the lady haunts that very street, and its preferred victims are cab drivers. Her ghost dresses up in a white gown, dressed with long hair covering her face like a veil. Drivers who drive on Balit Drive would often drive not knowing that the white lady was silently sitting in their back seat. The only way they find out about this is if they look in their rearview mirror, which they will find the lady in white staring back right at them. This is said to be the reason for all of the accidents on that street, so would you take your chances or would you just take the longer detour?
Now at number 9, the Romblon Triangle. If the North Atlantic has the so-called Bermuda Triangle, the Philippines also has something very similar, and it's called the Romblon Triangle, which is located in the Sibuyan Sea with its three corners at Mindoro, Panay, and Masbate, in the province of Romblon. The triangle covers a very small area, but due to the countless marine disasters in this area, people started talking about the Philippines version of the Devil's Triangle. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coast Guard insists that the shipwrecks in the Romblon Triangle are due to the bad weather and technical failure, and nothing mystical. But with that many issues happening within that area, they won't be able to keep calling it bad weather for much longer. Unless it is actually bad weather, but I guess we won't know.
At number 8 spot, we have the My Way Curse. The My Way Curse, or might I say, the My Way Killings, is a social phenomenon in my home country, the Philippines. The Philippines has all these type of weird, creepy stories, but I swear it was just a way for our parents to keep us obedient. The curse is linked to the song My Way by Frank Sinatra. Oddly enough, since 2002, there have been unusually high numbers of death linked to this song, especially when people are singing it during a karaoke performance. I mean, this seems like a pretty strange coincidence, but it has been reported on news organizations all around the world, including the renowned New York Times. Due to the negative attention this phenomenon received, bars in the Philippines were completely compelled to totally remove it from their karaoke players. This song is still forbidden in many pubs today, and you risk being ejected from the bar altogether if you attempt to play it.
Number 7, Flying Coffin. It's normal to see a coffin, though it typically gives us the creeps and goosebumps. But seeing a flying coffin in the middle of the road at night? Well, that's a different thing. Filipinos suggest that the flying coffin is one of the most popular horror stories shared with people. This horror story was even featured in a Halloween special of a TV show. The story is about a man walking in the middle of the night and he sees a flying or floating coffin in the middle of the road, and it then started to quickly fly towards him and almost hit him in the head when all of a sudden it disappeared. This left him horrified, and the story is still known nowadays, especially during Halloween. This one could be true, but it also could maybe just be a campfire story.
At a number 6 spot, we have the Bao Bao. The Bao Bao, otherwise known as the grave robber, is rightfully named that. It's a terrifying humanoid that is known to steal corpses from funerals or a grave to consume them later on. Stories say that the Bao Bao is an undead creature with claws that can rip through flesh, along with razor sharp teeth and a long tongue to effectively consume humans. It uses its long tongue to lick the flesh and suck out the blood of its victims. It's said that once the Bao Bao finishes eating a corpse, it leaves the trunk of a banana tree in the coffin to create the illusion of a stolen corpse. He is often regarded as an aswang as well. For all you non-Filipinos, aswangs are these creatures that haunted all points of our lives. They're basically these humanoids who separate their lower half of the body in order to fly around and attack unsuspecting babies. Man, the monsters in the Philippines are very creative.
Halfway at number 5, the headless priest. It said that the student was studying late at night at a school library and heard the sound of chains being dragged. When she checked who was making the noise, she found a priest, a headless priest. The priests played a vital role in Philippine history. They were the ones who led the church, and they were also the ones who taught the students in class during the Spanish era. As their name suggests, these clergymen hang out in universities, graveyards, churches, and other places that feel spooky. They sometimes bring their heads with them and seem to be looking for them when they don't. As for their heads, people said that they're either Filipino revolutionaries during the revolution or Japanese soldiers during World War II, cut off the heads of these priests. Other stories about biblical figures whose lives were taken, like St. John the Baptist, have also helped spread urban legends about priests.
All the way at a number 4 spot, we have the Clark Air Base Hospital. This is one of the few places deemed to be haunted, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world by the Ghost Hunters International. Season 1, episode 20, named Unknown Soldiers, if you guys want to check it out. The hospital was used during World War II and the Vietnam War. It served as an asylum to the wounded and the dying American soldiers. This is why many people around the world claim it is the most haunted place in the Philippines. It's said that the traumas and countless deaths from those conflicts have left their mark on the spirit presence in the hospital. The place is currently abandoned, which gives it this more supernatural look to it, but it's said that if you visit the hospital and sleep within 8 hours after the visit, you experience extreme nightmares and intense lucid dreaming for about a week.
Now at number 3, Diplomat Hotel. The Diplomat Hotel is one of the go-to places for ghost hunters from different parts of the world. In fact, this hotel was featured in documentaries from different countries because of its dark history. The Diplomat Hotel is believed to be built during the early 1900s. This was built to become a vacation house for the Spaniards, priests, and nuns. This hotel is home to many happy and beautiful memories, but all of these changed during World War II. According to the stories, when the Japanese came, they gathered all the people in the hotel, separated them into different rooms, and took all of their lives. The people in the hotel were shot, beheaded, and stabbed. The worst part is the center of the hotel, where the fountain is located in the same place where the children were gathered and their lives were unfortunately taken. After World War II, the vacation house was converted into a hotel, but another tragic incident happened. A fire started in the hotel, and many guests who were staying there unfortunately passed away, which is another reason for the hotel to be haunted. The people working and visiting the hotel have experienced many scary encounters. Most of the people who visited the hotel have almost the same heavy feeling as many people are looking at them.
At a number 2 spot, we have the Malacanang Palace. This extravagant building was used for the official residence and workplace for the President of the Philippines. I covered a video on the White House, and I can confirm nothing good comes from government buildings. Literally nothing. This building is located in the Old Manila district of San Miguel, and this building was built all the way back in 1705, so it has a lot of history, including some dark moments. It used to be the home of every nationality that colonized us, from the Spanish leaders to the Japanese leaders. All sorts of ghostly apparitions are said to reside in the area, such as those of soldiers and children.
Now coming in at number 1, San Juanico Bridge. When Typhoon Yolanda hit the country and almost erased vast areas in Leyte and Tacloban, the over 40 years old San Juanico Bridge remains strong and steady. Impressive, right? Well, what could be the secret to its strength? Legend says that the longevity and strength of the San Juanico Bridge joining the two islands is due to the countless children sacrificed during its construction. Former First Lady Imelda Marcos had allegedly conspired the kidnapping of street kids or random babies from Leyte and Samar, and had offered them in a demonic ritual, mixing their blood with the concrete. At the time, Imelda headed the construction of the bridge, and reportedly performed the sacrifice upon a fortune teller who said children's blood was needed for the project's completion. Bodies of the sacrificed children were then thrown down the bridge. So whenever there are haunting incidences on the bridge, people will remember the story about the unknown children sacrificed here. Starting off at number 10, Gitche-Manitou Murders. The Gitche-Manitou is a nature preserve just southeast of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the northeastern corner of Iowa that many believe is haunted. It has ancient Native American burial grounds, has witnessed the execution of 4 teens, and has been the site of an assault of a young child. In November of 1973, 5 teens from Sioux Falls went out camping in the area. The unsuspecting group was sitting by a fire with some green leafy substances when suddenly a shotgun went off. Roger SM, who was 17, instantly passed away by brothers Alan, David, and James Fryer, who descended on the group pretending to be cops. They separated the remaining 3 boys from the only girl, 13-year-old Sandra Chesky. and placed the girl in the back of their truck. Then the Fryer brothers lined up Stuart Bade, 15, with his little brother Dana Bade, 14, and friend Michael Hardoth, who was 15, and executed them. The little girl was kept alive and taken advantage of by James Fryer. She later identified the attackers and testified against them. They were sentenced to life in prison, but locals on both sides, Iowa and South Dakota, believe their horrible crimes still haunt the area. Number 9. Spook Road. Known to locals as Spook Road, this eerie stretch just outside of Brandon, South Dakota has quite the collection of creepy occurrences. Winding through tunnels, running over bridges, and lined in trees, locals claim this road is especially unnerving in the fall of winter months. There are many theories about the road, including one claim if you drive away from the town and count the number of turns, and then drive back and count them, you will end up with different numbers. Like driving in one direction will take you over 5 bridges, but on the way back you'll only cross 4. As if this wasn't weird enough, many cars have also wrecked on this road, which often leaves drivers with an unsettled feeling. While some people believe Spook Road is mere folklore, others will defend it to the end, with some die-hard believers even creating a Facebook group about Spook Road. Allegedly, people who also take their own lives here can still be seen hanging from both bridges and the trees, their bulging eyes watching you as you cross in horror. Number 8. Orpheum Theater. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota sits the historic Orpheum Theater, with its very own ghost. The spirit, fondly referred to as Larry, may or may not be the ghost of an actor who disappeared during a dress rehearsal many years ago. Allegedly, the sound of a gunshot rang out from the light booth. When his fellow actors ran up to investigate, all that remained was a pool of blood and no body was ever found. The theater first opened in 1913, but changed hands in 1954. The new owners allegedly found a casket in the boiler room, but when they came back later to clean things out, the casket was gone. Reports of strange noises and sightings of a shadow figure became common in the old theater, and one of the more intriguing reports happened in 1959. Actor Ray Loftusness became one of the many to see this shadow man on the balcony. On that particular night, he said Larry was illuminated by the green and blue lights that was pointing directly at him. He claimed that he was hit by an icy blast of air. Then twice that night, he was assaulted by falling sandbags and was even knocked unconscious. Number 7. Sitka Hollow. The Dakota Sioux Native Americans were said to have once hunted in the forest ravines known as Sitka Hollow. That is, until they realized it was haunted and put a warning on its name. Sitka means evil, and there are several legends that have come out of the state park. It's believed evil is steeped into every nook and cranny of this area, which is why water runs red in the Sitka Hollow Springs. Never mind the mineral content, it's pure evil. The path referred to as the Trial of Spirits has bubbling red bogs and was believed by the Sioux to be the flesh and blood of their ancestors. Between all the red water, swamp gas, and tree stumps glowing in the dark, it's no wonder they thought this place was evil. Perhaps they were right. There was a rash of mysterious disappearances in the 1970s. Paired with sightings of a half-man, half-beast similar to Bigfoot in these woods. Even today, visitors have claimed to see spirits of Indians in addition to hearing voices, war cries, and chanting. This one certainly seems terrifying for sure, and definitely not a place I would want to visit. Number 6. 1880 Train Haunting. The 1880 train that runs through Hill City is rumored to be another one of the most haunted places in South Dakota. While some of the train cars are used at the current tourist attraction, many remain abandoned. Some employees have specifically mentioned seeing a man standing in the back of the eating car, only to disappear seconds later. It said that the man was crossing the tracks and accidentally got stuck and unfortunately passed away while trying to break free, and his soul now haunts the train that took his life. Trains didn't really freak me out before, but now hearing this story, I'm pretty freaked out. Halfway at number 5, Walking Sam. The Pine Ridge Indian Reservation has had an alarmingly high rate of people taking their own lives amongst their youth, and it's believed an urban legend is responsible for this. The land is being stalked by an evil, an ancient entity that takes the form of Walking Sam, like the Tall Man, Slender Man, and the long-feared Stickman. This creature feeds on the living, infecting their minds and altering their thoughts. In the case of Walking Sam, his evil bidding is collecting the souls of people who take their own lives so he doesn't have to wander the earth alone. He stands around 7 feet tall, has no mouth, and has gangly limbs. When his arms are outstretched, you can see the bodies of Lakota men and women hanging from them. Since December of 2014, Pine Ridge has had 103 attempts of people trying to take their own life, with 9 people unfortunately succeeding. The youngest was only 12 and the oldest was just 24. Thankfully, church leader Pastor John Tubles discovered and prevented one of these plans from being carried out. He and a few other adults found a group of teenagers with rope already hanging from the trees. Another group of teens, all female, tried to carry out a similar plan but were stopped in time. But no one has been able to answer the biggest question: why? Tribe leaders, local mental health professionals, and law enforcement are scratching their heads on what is causing this. Number 4, Little Devils. The Spirit Mound near Vermilion has been long feared by Native Americans. They wouldn't dare go near it because of the legend of the Little Devils, who guard the mound mounds, attacking anyone who tries to climb them with magic arrows. The legend was first documented in 1804 and tells of the massacre that makes the mounds taboo today. However, people say it seems to have existed since long before then. Somewhere around the mid-18th century, hundreds of Indian warriors allegedly attempted to rid the world of evil little creatures, but it was they who ended up slaughtered instead. So now they stay away and leave the mounds to little devils. Number 3, Hookie Jack. A famous ghost from Rapid City, South Dakota is Hookie Jack. In life, his name was John Leary, but after a mining explosion in the 1800s, he lost both of his arms and one eye. His arms were replaced with hooks, hence the name Hookie Jack. He became a Rapid City police officer, but tragically passed away after being struck by a car in 1926. Now his spirit is said to haunt his former residence, which has since been converted into a tavern. According to legend, Hookie Jack lived on the 3rd floor and can still be heard roaming up there today. Employees don't even want to venture to that floor unless they absolutely must. Many employees have even refused to work the closing shift alone. Voices, rattling, and eerie sounds can all be heard upstairs at night. Strange flashing lights and spirit orbs have been caught on security footage. Multiple witnesses have seen chairs, tables, and the billiard balls moving around the table on their own. A few bartenders even claim to have seen a figure sit at the end of the bar out of the corner of their eye, only to look up and realize no one's there. Number 2, Devil's Gulch. One of the most famous urban legends in South Dakota happened in the town of Garriston. According to the local lore, infamous outlaw Jesse James successfully evaded capture in 1876 by leaping over the Devil's Gulch on horseback. Keep in mind that the Devil's Gulch is a ravine that runs 60 feet deep and is 20 feet wide. Jumping over something that massive without spooking a horse is highly improbable, and most historians would say it's impossible, but that doesn't stop locals from swearing it happened. Number 1, Hotel Alex Johnson. A hotel so surely haunted they actually advertise it right on their website. Come take a tour or stay at this haunted mansion. One of the main ghosts claimed to be seen here is the hotel's namesake, Alex Johnson himself. It is said that he comes around to make sure the hotel is still running well, but does he have any malicious intent? Why don't you book a stay and test the theory yourself? If you dare, that is.
Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the 13 Steps to Hell. Built in 1901, the Maltby Cemetery in Woodinville, Washington is said to be one of the go-to cemeteries if you want to experience some sort of supernatural activity. The most famous legend about the cemetery is the story of the 13 Steps to Hell. And I know how that sounds. The stairs appeared to lead nowhere and descended into the ground as they are located in the center of a cemetery. They allegedly led to an underground family tomb. Even though you were only a few feet away, it was said that when you went down the stairs, you abruptly lost your ability to hear anything above you. It is said that if you turn around and face the bottom of the stairs, you could catch a glimpse of hell itself. Local lore claims that occasionally people would descend down these stairs and just never come back. Even though the steps were removed many years ago, there are still stories concerning them. At number 9 spot, we have the Caddy of Cadborough Bay. Wait, did you think we could escape the Loch Ness Monster? Cause we really can't. There's one in every single state, and for Washington, they have the Cadborosaurus, nicknamed the Caddy. It is said to be a 20-foot long serpent creature that inhabits the northern part of the west coast. It's described as having the head of a horse and the body of a very large eel. Eyewitnesses reports have been coming in for the past 200 years with 300 different sightings. Even the Inuit people drew this creature on their canoes in hopes they would ward it off once they entered into the water. As with all these Loch Ness Monster hypes, many people claim to have found and captured it, but eventually it gets to the point when you can't even tell what's real and what's fake. At number 8 spot, we're the Black Cat of Stevens Hall. Built in 1895 in Pullman, Washington, the Stevens Hall was once praised as the quote, most famous attractive building on the campus. But once people stepped foot inside, they took back these claims. Kinda like when you meet someone who is physically attractive, but has a terrible personality. This is that place. It started as a hangout spot for students at Washington State University, and here they would dance, drink, and tell stories to one another. One famous story told at the hall was Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. It was read on Halloween every single year until one year the students believed the story had come to life. Eventually, many would see sightings of a black cat inside of the Stevens Hall. Then on one Halloween, the black cat stood in front of the house's mother's door, and when the students opened the door to see what the black cat was hiding, they found that a girl had passed away, and many believed it was caused by this black cat. At a number 7 spot, we have the Iron Goat Trail. In 1893, a railroad was constructed across the Cascades of Washington. This would be great news because it would finally mean that Seattle would be connected with the Midwest and many other states. Except once trains started to use this railroad, they ran into many problems. To begin with, trains with engines on each end had to struggle up switchbacks to reach the summit. And the worst part about this place was that since it was in the mountains, snow could reach up to 25 feet high in some places, which would have hundreds of people digging out the snow in order for the train to go through. Then in February 1920, the deadliest avalanche in American history hit the railroad. It derailed trails and killing a total of 96 people in the process. And at the time, the rescue mission was nearly impossible due to the extreme weather conditions present on the mountain. Now many hikers come across the area where the accident occurred, and many find themselves leaving immediately the moment they get there. This is because some hikers have reported hearing noticeable screams coming from the tunnels, while others have spotted the apparitions of men screaming for help. All of these components make this place one of Washington State's most haunted places. At number 6 spot, we have Port Townsend, Washington. Considered to be one of America's most haunted cities, Port Townsend definitely has a dark history to back up that claim. The thing about this place is that paranormal activity isn't in a single building or two, but they say that the spirits roam freely around the town, and there's not a place in town where you won't have the chance to see a ghost. For example, the Manresa Castle located in the city was once visited by ghost adventurers, and they supposedly captured children's laughter on film, as well as feeling as though something or someone was pressing against them the whole time. Then we have the Palace Hotel, which used to be known as the Palace of Suites due to the woman who used to live there. But many visitors claim these women never left. They say a woman in blue exposes herself to guests and staff members, while the other spirits try to play pranks on the other people. In the hump of our list, we have the Maury Island incident. Weeks before the infamous Roswell accident, Red Chrisman and Harold Dahl had their own encounter that shocked many people at the time. It all started on June 24, 1947, when pilot Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a string of 9 shiny unidentified flying objects traveling around 1,200 miles per hour near Mount Rainier. Many people have said they have seen the UFOs flying as well. Eventually, the story would be relayed to Red Chrisman and Harold Dahl, who both claimed to have fragments from the supposed UFO. When they interviewed Harold, he would go on to say, quote, "On June 21st, 1947, in the afternoon around 2 o'clock, I was patrolling the east bay of Maury Island. I, as captain, was steering my patrol boat close to the shore of the bay of Maury Island. On board were 2 crewmen, my 50-year-old son, and his dog. As I looked up from the wheel of my boat, I noticed 6 very large donut-shaped aircraft. Eventually, the FBI started to investigate and stated this incident was a hoax. But who knows? This really wouldn't be the last time the US government was hiding UFOs. At number 4, we have the infamous Bigfoot. Yes, the hairy creature had to make its way onto this list simply because this is the state where it was first documented and popularized. To this day, this is the state where the most sightings are recorded, so it's either everyone is lying in Washington or they may actually have a Bigfoot in their woods. Bigfoot has gained worldwide attention, but for those who don't know, they're basically 7 to 8 feet tall hairy humanoids with extreme strength. To this day, the search for Bigfoot is still a mystery, and there hasn't been solid evidence to prove the general public that these beasts actually exist. But hey, if you live in Washington, you have the best chance of actually discovering one, but that outcome would probably be a lot more different than you would think. At number 3 spot, we have Tacoma Old City Hall. Serving as City Hall in the early 20th century, this 10-story clock tower is haunted by a single prankster ghost named Gus. Many don't know the origins of this ghost, but it was said that he may have been a former criminal that was held in the building's Old City Jail and even passed away there. So as I mentioned, this building served as City Hall until 1957. This was a time when the City Hall was being neglected, no maintenance, and no payments. So eventually the building was too unsafe to work in, causing everyone to be kicked out. Nowadays, visitors of the Old City Hall claim that prankster ghosts have taken over the entire building. For example, Gus is known to toss objects in the air at random. He's also known to turn on lights on and off, and sometimes he would completely shatter light bulbs. At one point, the sightings were so frequent, the police believed it was a person trespassing the property. But after further investigation, it was discovered that no one was trespassing the property. At a number 2 spot, we have the Kells Irish Pub. Considered to be a family-friendly bar/restaurant, the Kells Irish Restaurant and Pub is said to be one of the most haunted eateries in the entire nation. To start, the pub is located in the Butterworth building, which was a former mortuary. So you kinda know where this story is going. This would basically mean that the entire building was used to store deceased bodies. Throughout the years, many spirituals have been brought to the Butterworth building in an attempt to initiate meaningful communication with the alleged spirits who remain there, including both a Catholic priest and a voodoo priestess. Nowadays, visitors report sightings of a ghost of a young girl dressed in a scarlet velvet dress. Others have spotted the ghost of an older man named Charlie, who would appear at random throughout the entire building. At number 1 spot, we have Mount Baker Theater. Opening up in 1927, the Mount Baker Theater in Bellingham was haunted from day one. Unidentified sounds, chilly spots, strange disembodied voices, balls of light, and even the odd apparition are just a few of the stories that have been noted here. As well, many visitors have reported the ghost of a young woman named Judy. It's said that she has crushes on male visitors and will choose to usher them into their seats if she does have a crush on them. People know it's Judy when they begin to hear their name across the floor and feel as though someone is touching them on the back or their shoulders. Another spirit trapped in this place is a cat that is found in the basement of the theater. Many claim that whenever they go to the basement and they catch a glimpse of this cat, something bad is bound to happen, as with many other black cat theories. Oddly enough, Mount Baker Theater keeps a ghost light on stage during the off hours, claiming that they ward off the evil ones from the theater, but who really knows if it works like they say they do. At number 10 spot, we have the Krasu. Can't lie, when I first looked at this creature, I didn't know what to think. The Krasu is found and talked about all over Southeast Asia, including Thailand. It appears as a beautiful young woman, except it's missing a significant amount of body parts. The Krasu is only made up of a head with her internal organs hanging down from her neck. So as you would imagine, probably the most terrifying thing to see in real life. In Thailand legend, it said a Khmer princess became a Krasu after she was executed by burning, all because she tried to marry a person of lower status. So before the execution, the princess hired a sorceress to cast a spell on her, except the fire had already burned her entire body except for her head, which is why the Krasu appears the way it does. The spell was so powerful, however, it gave her new life, except only in this terrifying form. Now the Krasu flies around with a never-ending thirst for blood to drink and raw flesh to devour. So for the first time ever, avoid this beautiful woman. At number 9 spot, we have Thawi Watana Deserted House. This is a supposed cursed house where everyone who entered the house would be met with a terrible fate. In the Thawi Watana district of Bangkok, rumor has it that in 2015, a group of early teenagers entered the home. They were just out partying, so they entered the home high on alcohol and other narcotics. The reason they entered the house was because locals had already claimed that the house was haunted, so the boys decided to go check on it for themselves. This ended up being a very terrible decision later on. It said that whoever entered the house will have one of the home's spirits attached to them forever. It wasn't until 3 months after, when 2 of the boys were fatally wounded in a motorcycle accident. Then a year later, a 3rd boy was caught also in a fatal accident. Then in the next year, 2 more of the boys lost their lives in a house fire. The odd thing about all these deaths was that the witnesses claimed that they saw a woman in white sitting on the backs of the motorcycles before their fatal accidents and before the house fire. Witnesses also claimed to see a woman in white entering the house before it burned down. Number 8 spot, we have the Jar Shuam Ashram. At the Ashram Shuan inside Thailand, there are literally hundreds of these statues scattered all around the property. These elaborate statues were created by one single shaman. This was no regular shaman, however. This shaman specialized in the dark arts and sorcery. So when he was alive, he performed rituals in which human remains such as ash, bone, hair, and skin would be mixed in with the concrete and be used to make these statues. After the shaman passed away, the ashram was left abandoned and the statues were left to be consumed by the forest around it. Locals avoid going to this ashram after dark because this is when the most activity happens with these statues. Some claim to hear the statues talk to one another, while others see them fully move around. Regardless, seeing these statues that are just mixed in with human remains would be a terrifying thought, not only to see but just to think about. At number 7, we have the Courtesan Graveyard. In the western region of Thailand lies this infamous graveyard. The name I mentioned is not the actual name of the place, but after I mention some points, you'll understand why I changed it. Throughout the years, there's been numerous stories that this building was used as a brothel. Tragically, the women who were hired here were basically forced into adult work, and on top of that, they lived in these tiny rooms and were forced to take part with dozens of men. This is just a horrible thought beyond imagination. If the women said no or disobeyed, they were assaulted and left malnourished. So this is why this place got its name, because inside are the countless bodies of women and babies who were tragically left to die. Nowadays, it remains deserted for good reason, but if you go near the area at night, many report hearing constant screams and cries for help that grow louder and louder. At number 6 spot, we have the disappearance of Jim Thompson. Jim Thompson was an American businessman who came to Thailand and helped revitalize the Thai silk industry in the 1950s and 60s. So you can say he had a lot of power and influence in the area. He eventually built a house in Thailand filled with artifacts and various other Thailand charms. He was also loved by many locals and flourishing the Thai industry until one day in 1967, he was away in Cameron Highlands in Malaysia. Then, following an Eastern church service, Jim Thompson suddenly disappeared out of nowhere. This caused a 500-man grand-scale search for Jim, including the Thai Army and Malaysian police force. After months of searching and the worldwide attention, Jim was declared dead in 1974 despite there being no trace or forensic evidence of him whatsoever. So did Jim just vanish out of thin air, or were there some greedy businessman looking to eradicate their competition? We'll never know. Right in the hunt for a list, we have Wat Sahat. The Wat Sahat is a Buddhist temple located in Bangkok, Thailand. This temple was built all the way back in 1807 under King Rama I, so best believe it went through countless decades and countless leaders. At the time it was built, many people were told stories about the undead. Specifically in the temple, the undead were said to appear in the front of the temple's doors, resembling a thin-bodied ghost with a scary howling cry. This ghost is known as the Preda, and it was used in many religions to show someone suffering greater than humans at an extreme level of hunger and thirst. So I don't know if this ghost serves as a reminder for us to be grateful for our nourishment, or is it just another one of those ghosts that haunted this place? Who knows? At number 4 spot, we have the Bioki Sky Hotel. Located in what was once the tallest building in Bangkok, the Bioki Sky Hotel is one of the highest hotels in Southeast Asia. It towers over much of the city at 88 stories tall. However, in 2012, there was a tragic accident during construction of the tower whereby 3 workers plummeted to their deaths. Perhaps enraged by the unsafe equipment and working practices, the souls are now said to haunt the high-class hotel. Guests and staff members alike have reported a variety of strange happenings, including things mysteriously moving and creepy shadows. Even websites like TripAdvisor and Google Reviews also talk about many of the supernatural encounters they had in the hotel. These reviews suggest that guests report poltergeist activity, which include having their items moved around the rooms, shadowy figures in the dark corners of the rooms, and having the feeling of being watched and not alone. I know it doesn't make sense financially, but I feel like they should just close down a hotel after there's been more than a few deaths occurring, because I swear every hotel is haunted nowadays. At number 3 spot, with the Bang Phu Shoe Hotel. There is a certain shoe factory that nobody dares to walk in to this day. In Samut Prakan lies this now abandoned shoe factory. Why is it abandoned? Well, because back in the day, the factory suffered a freak accident that led many people to their deaths and injuries of many more workers. Instead of shutting down the factory, the greedy owner decided to keep it operational very soon after. Eventually, employees began to leave after reporting that they have encountered the angered spirits of their fellow workers. After many complaints were made about the factory, and when the workers started to desert the place completely, the owner decided to take his own life inside of the factory. To this day, the ghost stories that surround Bang Phu Shoe Factory, as I mentioned, have caused no one to step foot inside. Some locals say they occasionally get the whiff of newly burnt embers, shadowed with the screams of workers still trying to find their way out. At number 2 spot, we have Phi Phlong. Be cautious of who you see during the day, as they may morph into a ghost at night. Phi Phlong, a foul-smelling spirit, appears as a normal person during the day and as a ghost at night. The odd things it feasts on, such as frogs, give Phi Phlong its pungent odor. This creature is so feared that if locals even hear a frog close by, they will purposely rush inside of their homes in fear of bumping into the Phi Phlong. This stinky ghost is harmless until threatened, which means you can end up like a Phi Phlong if he attacks and you ingest his saliva. I mean, just by looking at this creature, there's nothing good about them, but I guess they don't randomly attack, which is kind of a good thing. Kind of. So for another weird thing these guys do is that they will throw banana stalk cut from the widow water shoulder poles over the roof of the victim's house. This will cause the family of the house to suffer bad luck and other tragedies in the following years. All the way at a number 1 spot with the Khao Lak. Khao Lak is a beautiful seaside town in Phang Nga province. In 2004, it was all but destroyed by a devastating tsunami. While many places in several countries suffered casualties and damage after the huge earthquake in the Indian Ocean, Khao Lak saw Thailand's greatest loss of life. It is estimated that at least 4,000 people perished on December 26, 2004. The resort has risen from the debris, with homes, hotels, and businesses gradually being rebuilt and repaired. Many Thai people believe that the coastal area is haunted by the tsunami's victims, and ghosts have reported strange occurrences in many of the local hotels. At a number 10 spot, we have the Kifune Shrine. This place is very well known as a beautiful sightseeing spot in Kyoto, Japan, but for many locals, the dark history makes them have a different perspective of the place. Kifune Shrine is known as the birthplace of a terrifying ritual known as the Ishunokuku Mari, which refers to placing a curse on someone by placing a nail through a straw effigy, which is sort of like a voodoo doll. Then you nail it onto a tree around the hours of 1 to 3 a.m. We did a 3 a.m. video, so you already know how cursed that time is. If anyone is caught watching this ritual, the person conducting the ritual must eliminate that person, or else the curse will reflect back onto them. The performer usually wears a white kimono, sandals, and places 3 burning candles on top of their head. If you visit the shrine to this day, you will find many trees with holes on it, presumably from the nails of those attempting this scary ritual. At our number 9 spot, we have the Awashima Shrine. There is no doubt Japan is a very beautiful place, meaning that most of the shrines I mentioned on this list are very visitable, so I had to mention Awashima Shrine to change your mind on that. This shrine contains over 20,000 dolls who are believed to be possessed from its past owners. The dolls will be left at the shrine as an offering from women to pray for fertility and for safe birth. Come on, look at this place. Tell me you would go here willingly. According to legend, Empress Zingu was journeying home from a war overseas. As she was on her way back home, a huge storm took over the seas and broke the boat partially. This caused the Empress to pray to the gods, and apparently they brought her back safely to Tomagashina. Here she would build the Awashima Shrine to thank the gods for their service. People believe that these dolls over time would develop souls, so the reason why many donate it is to get rid of the curse trapped inside of these dolls that caused many of the problems and issues within their own life. At number 8 spot, we have the Dashogun Shrine. This shrine was originally built by Emperor Kanmu in 794. It was originally built to break the evil coming from all sorts of directions, whether this be from physical enemies or spiritual beings. This became a place where people would go to pray for protection. Specifically, many would call for the god of the stars, Dashogun. Enshrined at the place are many Japanese figures fighting a beast named the Nu. A Nu is a Japanese yokai described as having the head of a monkey, the body of a raccoon dog, legs of a tiger, and a snake for a tail. Pretty terrifying, right? Because these creatures can also transform into a black cloud and fly all over the place. Back in the early years of its construction, it said that the current emperor sent out these powerful warriors to kill it and make the place peaceful at last. Except many believe the Nu is still out there near the shrine, with reports of seeing the creature in the forest surrounding the area. At our number 7 spot, with the Menenji Temple. Menenji Temple is located in Iwamizawa, Japan, and it was originally built in dedication to the Jodo sect of Buddhism. Despite its spiritual beginnings, the temple is now known for the cursed doll that lives within it. The story starts in 1918 Japan. Older brother Eikichi Suzuki bought a doll for his 2-year-old sister Okiku. The doll had a black bob cut and a traditional kimono on it. His sister loved the doll so much that she would even name it after her own name. These two would become so attached together like no other. But in the following year, Okiku became gravely ill and ended up passing away. To commemorate her, her family put her favorite doll on her memorial shrine. Everything seemed fine until after a few days they would begin to notice something very strange. The doll's hair seemed to be actively growing, and every time it would be cut, it would continue to keep growing. Eventually her family would move away but chose to keep the doll in the same place, thinking that Okiku would have wanted that. Now it resides in the Menenji Temple, where it's said that monks will cut the doll's hair regularly as it keeps on growing. At number 6 spot, we have the Sogenji Shrine. The Sogenji Shrine, also known as a Kappadera, is a Zen Buddhist temple in Tokyo. It got its name from a Japanese mythological entity known as the Kappa. And no, I don't mean that trashy clothing brand. I'm talking about these guys. Kappas are these human-like creatures, small in stature, with webbed hands and feet. It has a turtle shell on its back, and a beak and a saucer on their head, always seem to be filled with water. These creatures would just be known for their troublemaking. They would play games with both animals and humans, and in some cases, the Kappa would impregnate women and drown people in the rivers where they resided. Apparently, when the place was prone to flooding, the people of the area asked for the Kappa for existence, and now many claim that the Kappas are still nearby, claiming the place as their own. There are several statues of the Kappa littered around the shrine, but who knows if one of them turns out to be real. At the hump of our list, we have the Zenkoji Temple. The Zenkoji Temple is a Buddhist temple located in the city of Nagano, Japan. The main temple of Zenkoshi has a dark room created for spiritual purposes and acts like a shrine in a way. This dark room follows a pitch black tunnel underneath the temple that monks had supposedly hid the quote key to paradise. In order to do this, you need to hone your 5 senses and have complete focus while trying to navigate yourself through this area. This area is supposed to represent the journey between death and rebirth. It's very simple to understand how this represents the pursuit of enlightenment, which is only possible once you let go of your physical limitations and your concerns. People think that if you find the key, they will be saved, while others believe that if you fail, you will have a series of bad luck and unfortunate mishappenings. Regardless if you succeed or not, this room is bound to have a terrifying experience regardless. At number 4 spot, we have Mount Osor. This is one of Japan's most sacred sites, and for good reason. It's claimed by many to be one of the entrances to hell. First, the temple lies on top of a volcanic plain, and as you roam the area, you will constantly pick up a scent of sulfur, which is already eerie because this is the smell of ghosts and demons, supposedly. But volcanic reasons also make sense. According to Buddhist monks, they say that this place resembles the descriptions of hell and also paradise, so this is why many believe this is a spirit hub. Also around the area are these little jizzle statues, which were there to guide people who were lost, especially for children to take and keep them for safety. People who have lost their children bring pebbles to the site as an offering for their kids to go easily through the afterlife. Except many of these pebbles are left broken, and many have placed the blame on evil demons in the area. There's also a festival at the shrine where blind women called Itaku bring messages from the afterlife back to the living. So best believe there are quite a few spirits here waiting to be communicated with. At number 3 spot, we have the Owa Nanari Tamaya Shrine. This shrine in Tokyo has one of the most famous ghost stories in all of Japan associated with it. The story goes that Owa was a very pure and faithful woman, married to a terrible man named Tamaya Lemon. This man killed her in order to marry a richer woman. While the accounts on how he killed her vary, this all include poisoning her with terrible consequences to her looks. Obviously, she wouldn't be keen on this whole new marriage thing, and she proceeded to ruin the marriage, making him kill his new wife and her family by making them look like her dead self, and finally killed him too. The shrine was built to represent Owa's angry spirit and is still rests south of the station in Tokyo. At number 2 spot, we're the Kaikoji Temple. This place has nothing really scary about it except the fact that it has mummified bodies on display. Okay, maybe it is a bit scary. These mummified figures are known as a Sokushin Butsu, also known as the living Buddha or Buddha mummies. These are in fact real people, and they are the bodies of priests who belong to the Shingon sect of Japanese Buddhism. All the mummies we see here are priests who made the drastic decision in self-mummification. Just something about a body that is fully intact for hundreds of years that makes it so creepy, right? The process for the mummification would actually be pretty intense. For the first 1,000 days, they would do extreme fasting and exercising. Then on the next 1,000 days, they would reduce their diets to a bare minimum. The last 1,000 days would consist of entombment. Basically, they would bury themselves alive, essentially while in a deep state of meditation, in order to reach enlightenment. At number 1 spot, we have the Taki Shrine. This shrine is consumed in moss but looks very beautiful, but the story behind it completely ruins it. This shrine was established in the Teryaku era of Japan, which was around 900 AD. Legend goes that a man was hunting for yokai and fighting against sorcery in the region. When he was roaming the area, it would slowly get consumed by a dark black cloud. Unable to move further, the man prayed to the gods and fired an arrow up into the clouds. When the arrow came back down, the cloud drifted away, and the spot where the arrow hit is a supposed location of the Taki Shrine. Every now and then, the mountain will be filled with fog and mist, which only adds to the amazing atmosphere of the nature in the area, but also has a little bit of creepiness in it. And it's also a time when most of the region's spirits seem to be resting. Many believe that many yokai are resting by the shrine, so it's best to visit this area when there's still light outside, because many people have gone missing when night hits. Coming in at number 10, we have 13 Curves. This is a very dangerous road in Marcellus, New York, named the 13 Curves. Over the past 60 years since its construction, this road claimed the lives of many drivers from unfortunate accidents. None are more notorious than the story of a couple on their wedding day. Drivers claim they see a young woman dressed in a bloody white wedding gown walking along the road looking for her groom. All of the accidents on this road are said to be associated with this one woman, since many of the survivors of these accidents claim that the last thing they saw before crashing was in fact this woman in white. This story is very similar to La Llorona if you guys remember my past videos. That is in the Texas video. How the woman passed away in the first place remains a complete mystery, but some claim that on their wedding night, the couple drove on these winding roads, but on one of the curves, they lost control and ended up in a nearby creek, with both of them passing away. Other drivers claim that they enter into their cars, and many of them become startled and crash when they look in their rearview mirror to see this bloody apparition. At a number 9 spot, we have the Fordham University Spirit Story. Before we begin, scenes from The Exorcist were shot here, so it was probably for good reason since they wanted to shoot a horror film at this university filled with the supernatural. In the summer of 2003, RAs in the place noticed that in one room the beds were propped up rather than lying on the floor. It wasn't until one day an RA awoke from knocking on his door. When he opened it, he saw a Jesuit priest who said he would take care of the mattresses. Except when the RA tried to figure out who the priest was, he discovered that the only Jesuit priest bearing that description had passed away 10 years ago. That's not all the ghosts within this university. It said that the spirit of a little girl who has been seen in the bathrooms is said to lurk and peek behind the shower curtains. Many other students revealed that they had sleep paralysis when inside the dorms, even though they had no such thing prior. Lastly, other students report being woken up due to the feeling of someone grabbing their neck and tugging their legs as if someone wants to drag them. At a number 8 spot, we have Rochester's White Lady. There's a white lady scary urban legend in almost all cultures, so I had to mention one in New York as well. In Eastman Durham Park, visitors claim to see a crying woman asking where her daughter is. The story goes that in the early 1800s, a woman named Elisa lived in the area with her farmer husband. After a seemingly good start to their new home in Rochester, tragedy struck when Elisa's daughter suddenly disappeared. The story of her disappearance varies, but the most popular one is that the daughter asked Elisa if she can walk walked to the lake, but she never ended up returning. Regardless of what version you believe, the result is the same. People see the white lady roam the perimeters of the lake, constantly wailing and asking for the location of her daughter. People claim that she is more aggressive towards men, but appears as more heartfelt and sorrowful for women. This could be because women are more likely to assist her in finding her daughter, but much of it is unknown. At our number 7 spot, we have the White Horse Tavern. This tavern was established all the way back in 1673, making it America's oldest tavern, as you can see from the sign in the front of the building. During the 18th century, the owner of the bar was reported to be a pirate and rum smuggler, and when the British authorities were hunting for him, he hid out in this tavern during the Revolutionary War and brought in many other soldiers with him, where a lot of them would pass away in that tavern. The most activity in the tavern is said to be located on the 2nd floor in the master bedroom. Story goes that a young girl passed away from smallpox in that room, and many guests hear the little girl singing, and some workers claim they see a little girl running around with a lemon and lime knife looking to attack unsuspecting victims. And remember that pirate owner I mentioned? Yeah, he would end up murdering someone in that very room, but that's all up for speculation still. Regardless, the world's oldest tavern had to have a few of their own ghost stories. At our number 6 spot, we have the Rolling Hills Asylum. Located in East Bethany, New York, this asylum was originally named the Genesee County Poor Farm. A poorhouse is a place where orphan children, families, the elderly, and where physically and mentally handicapped people go. All the people who passed away at the asylum were buried on the property grounds, which led many people to believe to be haunted throughout the entire area. The favorite entity spotted there is called Roy Crouse. The owner had encounter with Roy the ghost. One day she went in and a rat went across the room. The rat startled her, and then she went to scream and then left the asylum. The next day when she came back, she noticed a rat that startled her was found dead on the stairs with blood oozing out of it. Above that was a bloody handprint, presumably with the blood of the rat. She believes it was Roy helping her, as the rat scared her pretty bad. Right in the hump of our list, we have the Curse of 1940. The Curse of 1940, or the Duton's Curse, was a hex that was believed to cause NHL's New York Rangers not to win a Stanley Cup between 1941 all up until 1993. For all you non-hockey fans, the New York Rangers were very successful in their early years when they took 3 Stanley Cups, 1928, 1933, and 1940. After a 54-year wait, they won another Stanley Cup in 1994, but many fans believe the reason they haven't touched gold in so long is because of this curse. This was because in the 1939-40 season, the mortgage of the Madison Square Garden, which is the place where the Rangers played, was paid off, which led to management to burn the entire mortgage in the bowl of the cup. This led many to believe that the hockey gods put a curse on them. For example, in the 1950 Stanley Cup Finals, the Rangers had to play in the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto for their home ice, which could be related to the fact that the MSG burned their mortgage, forcing them to play in another city, hence why they didn't win that year. I know sports curses are not scary at all, but for New York Rangers fans, this is the most terrifying thing they heard all year. At our number 4 spot, we have Palmyra Historical Museum. As the name suggests, this museum is located in Palmyra, New York. This building is thought to be over 200 years old and once served as a tavern and a hotel. It is now open to the public as a museum, but there's a reason why this one is on the list. The story goes that 6 days before Christmas 1964, a fire raged a small home which had Ruth Anna Breeden, her husband Paul, and 6 children inside. It was a supposed flash fire which engulfed the entire house quickly. The husband managed to escape, but the mother and her 6 children were found burnt in the basement underneath a mattress. Although the fire didn't happen in the museum per se, it sits on the home's foundation, meaning the basement is the exact same. This is why many guests claim to catch the scent of ash in the basement, because this is where the woman and her children lost their life. In the museum, guests also report toys being flown off shelves and even feeling their hair and clothes being tugged on. All the way at our number 3 spot, we have Vale Cemetery. After being opened in 1857, the historic Vale Cemetery became the largest cemetery in Schenectady, New York. After many years, guests will report some pretty eerie paranormal activity going on inside the cemetery. Many people had come forward, all reporting the same phenomenon, saying that the statues would bleed from their eyes. It's very important to note that all the people that came forward were not related in any sort of way, making all these accounts really genuine. Other people visiting the cemetery also claim that they've seen figures sitting in the trees above the tombstones, and even full-blown apparitions of crying ghosts. The cemetery now has a total of 33,000 assigned plots, making it a spiritual hub. At our number 2 spot, we have the ghost ship of the Hudson River. Back when New York was just a small village, reports surfaced of a spooky ship floating on the river. Seen at dusk on foggy days, many say it was the spirit of the Henry Hudson's Half Moon ship. One of the reports came from an anonymous source of the weather dork that they referred to as Samuel. He was spending the day fishing on the shore of the Hudson, but then an odd ship caught his gaze. He claimed the ship was floating on air above above the water, but as the ship got closer to him, he found that it had no crew on deck and had 3 empty masts. Regardless of the fact that it was floating, the ship could only be heard when it got closer, and the wood would be creaking as if it was on water when it wasn't. Eventually, a storm came and slowly brought the ship back into the river, slowly disappearing into the darkness and the rain. If you listen to this story and get some Flying Dutchman vibes, you're right. All the way at our number 1 spot, we have the Amityville Horror House. It all started with an invitation from a news anchorman in Long Island. All the Warrens knew that there was a tragedy inside of the home, and the owners left after only living at the home for little less than a month. After Ed Warren spoke to the owner of the home, George Lutz, he quickly agreed to have them investigate. George was so horrified by the house that he only left the keys to the house and completely left the area. When the Warrens were in the house, they described feeling a powerful negative energy, calling it, quote, diabolically infested. Ed then entered the basement and felt immediate pressure, which pinned him on the floor. He commanded to Jesus Christ to leave, and it lifted it off of him. This was no regular paranormal case. The Warrens were unaware that 6 people were murdered in that home 7 months ago, where Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family in that one night.
Kicking it off at number 10, Ghost of Stowe Lake. San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is home to one of the city's most famous ghosts. Stowe Lake is said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman who, after attempting to save her child, who fell in the water, drowned in the lake. Legend says that this woman, referred to as the White Lady, wanders the edges of Stowe Lake as she searches for her child. She can even be summoned by visitors. It's said that the most active area surrounding the lake is near the Pioneer Woman and Children statue. Ghost seekers can summon the woman by calling out, White Lady, I have your baby," 3 times. If she believes you, the woman will appear before you and will ask for her baby back. The legend bewars both skeptics and believers from doing this, because if you tell her you have her baby, the woman will haunt you for the rest of your life. If you tell the woman you don't have her baby after summoning her, legend says she will drag you into Stowe Lake and you will suffer the same fate she did in the lake. Now at number 9, the Dark Watchers. This legend takes place in the Santa Lucia Mountains, which run from Avila Beach to Monterey. The Dark Watchers are said to be giant phantoms that resemble humans and lurk inside the mountain. Legend goes that the Dark Watchers can only be seen at midnight, as they stand at the mountain's tops. They've only been claimed to be seen staring out into the wide space below the mountains, before completely vanishing into thin air. Coming in at number 8, Monster of Elizabeth Lake. Elizabeth Lake in California is said to have an evil presence below the water's surface. Elizabeth Lake is just outside Lancaster in LA. It's said to have been created by the devil himself to keep his hellish pets. The urban legend says that the passageway to hell can be found if you swim deep into the lake. The first sighting of the monster of Elizabeth Lake dates back to 1880. The monster is said to have the neck of a giraffe, head of a bulldog, bat wings, estimated to be about 50 feet long, and smells of decay. Sightings of the monster of Elizabeth Lake continue to be reported and strike fear in the locals. Here at number 7, the hauntings of Turnbull Canyon. In the Puente Hills Preserve near Witter Turnbull Canyon is a popular hiking site in the preserve. It was previously referred to as Harakanuga, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, which translates to the place of the devil. According to the legend, the region is haunted by the Indians who were executed for not converting to Catholicism. Their spirits are believed to be lingering inside the depths of the canyon, waiting to get out. Many years later, Turnbull became the site of numerous satanic rituals held by people who mysteriously disappeared. What was left behind from the rituals were paranormal sightings and occurrences, reported by both locals and freaked out hikers. Taking number 6, the Billywhack Monster. Rumors of an alleged beast have been going on around since the 1940s at the site of the former Billywhack Dairy in Ventura County. August Rubel, a German national living in the United States during World War II, owned the dairy. It was rumored that August had a secret underground lab beneath the dairy, where he was working with the US government to build a super soldier for war. He returned to Germany in 1943 as he was supposedly working for the Allies. During the trip, August allegedly stepped on a German landmine and passed away. Years later, reports of a strange creature roaming the area where the now abandoned dairy stood started to surface. Many of these reports came from local high school students who told police that a large humanoid with goat-like horns and sharp claws was hurling rocks at their car. Halfway at number 5, Alcatraz Demon. San Francisco's Alcatraz Island has plenty of ghosts and disturbing rumors about its former inmates, one of which is the Alcatraz Demon. The story is that a prisoner was ranting about a demon in his cell. The guards ignored his cries, knowing that many of the prisoners were mentally ill and prone to seeing things. The next morning, the prisoner was found strangled in his cell, with no evidence or means that someone else had been in or out of the cell. There were also a lot of other ghost stories surrounding Alcatraz. Here at number 4, the Hollywood sign Spirit. This is probably one of the most infamous urban legends in California. The Hollywood sign is said to be haunted by the early 1900s actress Peg Entwistle. When a possible career-ending review was published about one of her films, Peg climbed to the top of the sign's H and jumped off of it. She is said to haunt the sign and the surrounding area. The legend continues to state that she will appear to people hiking to the off-limits part of the sign where she had taken her life. Instead of the sweet Hollywood actress, what appears to these unfortunate people is a woman with a skeletal face and deep hollowed-out eyes. If those hikers are alone, she is said to somehow influence them to share her same fate. Now at number 3, Ghost Hills. Basic laws of gravity state that what goes up must come down. While in California, there are spots that are rumored to defy this basic truth. If you park at the base of a hill in a specified location and release your parking brake, your car will roll uphill. These spots are hard to find but are often accompanied by a legend as its explanation. A school bus broke down and the kids jumped out to push it up the hill, but lost control and the bus ran over them, taking their lives. Now they push cars up hills as ghosts. Here at number 2, Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is a serial killer who operated in Northern California in late 1960s. The Zodiac Killer took the lives of 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969, operating in rural, urban, and suburban settings. 2 of his attempted victims fortunately did survive. The Zodiac himself, however, claimed to have taken the lives of 37 victims, and he has been linked to several other cold cases, some in Southern California or outside the state. The Zodiac made the name for himself in a series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to regional newspapers, threatening execution sprees and bombings if they were not printed. Some of the letters included cryptograms or ciphers, in which the Zodiac claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Of the 4 ciphers he produced, 2 remain unsolved, and only 1 was cracked in 2020. The Zodiac stopped written communications around 1974. The unusual nature of this case led to the international interest that has sustained throughout the years. The case also still remains open in the city of Vallejo, as well as in Napa County and Solano County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file on the Zodiac since 1969. Although in late 2021, a team of specialists who investigate cold cases say they identified the Zodiac Killer as Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018. The team's years of digging uncovered new forensic evidence and photos from his darkroom. One image features a scar on the forehead of Gary's that matches a scar on the sketch of the Zodiac. It's insane that he stopped communication in 1974 and passed away in 2018, but they only identified him last year. Coming in at number 1, the Charman. The Charman's origin story is quite gruesome. A father and son were both caught in a house fire and horribly burnt in 1948. After the fire, the son became so mentally unstable that he executed his father. When the police found the son, he was so unrecognizably burnt, they didn't realize he was alive. So he ran away before they were able to arrest him for what he did to his father. The story goes that ever since then, the Charman can be spotted wandering the woods surrounding Ojai, occasionally approaching tents of innocent campers or pretending to be a hitchhiker and then attempting to attack them.